where we've broadcasted to all membership, anybody who wanted to get on. Now they're hitting YouTube, so we're getting more places. Um, I think Brooke and Rick are having more confidence in us that we're going to be able to pull this thing off. So
Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad
um,
thing.
yeah, so once again, glad to have you back. Enjoy doing this, and the more people we can get joined in watching and having a good time with us, the more fun I think it'll be. So those who don't know that maybe because you've been under a rock, I'm Will Vinay, this is Andrew Morris, and this is the Jive. Join with us tonight, Chief Aubrey Jenkins from Columbia City Fire Department. It's a pleasure to have you on, Chief. Um, and I look forward to having a great night with you. So if you would just kind of introduce yourself to anybody who doesn't know you, and you don't have to give a bio because we're gonna get to all that.
Okay. Well, of course, like I say, I'm Aubrey Jenkins. Well, Aubrey D. Jenkins. That's what I go by. Aubrey D. Jenkins. I'm just a regular type guy. Been in Columbia all my life, and I'm just happy to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on the program tonight, and I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah. So Chief Jenkins has got 47 years at the City of Columbia. That's two careers for most folks. You know that's damn near 50 years. That's impressive. And so the way that we normally do this is Andrew's a little more scripted than I am, and then I just kind of just like whatever pops in my mind. That's kind of what I ask. Um, but the first thing I would like to start with, so where did you grow up? Let's start there. Where did you grow up?
So, like I said, I grew up in Columbia. I grew up in the in Saxon Homes, which is right off of Hardin Street, which they have developed that place now. So I went to elementary when I was living in Saxon Homes. Grew up there, and of course stayed there for I don't know until about third or fourth grade. Then we moved to another part of the city, more out in the Fairfield Road area. So I started, there, and then went on to Eau Claire High School. Um, so, I was always the type of person that, I wanted to play football, and I did play 1 year. Um, but after that, I started driving school bus because I wanted to make me some money.
I
So
hear you.
so that's what I did. But I had a humble beginning. 10 brothers and sisters, believe it or not, and I'm like uh, number six in the bunch. And so again, just so grateful to be here. Um, and I never thought that I would work for the fire department. I watched fire trucks go by, but I never thought I'd work there. But it was kind of a humble beginning. Growing with that many brothers and sisters. And my brother, he was the oldest, and of course, he went to Vietnam, so we didn't see a whole lot of him after he went to Vietnam. But again, but we had a great time. Had a great time. But it's very humble experience.
So Chief, you said you didn't necessarily ever think about the fire service. How is it that number 6 out of 10, graduating from Eau Claire High School, driving school buses to make money, found the fire service?
Well, let me correct something. I'm sorry. I'm number 5 out of 10. My bad.
Okay. I couldn't keep that track.
When you got a large family, it's kind of hard to keep track with stuff.
One of the middle.
Yeah. Well, I actually when I got out of high school, I started going to college, and I took up criminal justice. I kind of always wanted to kind of go either on the law side as a lawyer or law enforcement. So I took up criminal justice. I went there for about a year, and then one of my friends, he started working at the fire department. Me and him was best friends. And he kind of told me about the fire department. So I said, you know what? I might want to give that a try. Went down, and of course I applied for it. I don't know, maybe several months later, got a call to come down for an interview. And when I took the interview, they sent me to get my physical and all that good stuff, and told me to be back on a certain day. and that's what I did. So again, I wasn't looking to be in the fire service. However, that's just where it ended in the fire service.
Well, that's kind of funny because that's kind of similar to my story. Is I majored in criminal justice. Dad said, "Who are you gonna hang out with? All your friends are criminals." So I said, and then I switched over to business, and I kind of backed into the fire service.
Yeah.
Um, Now you say in the city of Columbia, you drove a school bus. What was your school? What was your route? Like 2 blocks?
So my route, I drove out of Eau Claire. My route was actually going up Fairfield Road
Okay.
on them back roads up there going toward. It wasn't exactly in Blythewood. Well, part of it was in Blythewood, because some folks up there did come to school down, at Aircon Middle School. I most drove for Aircon, taking students to Aircon Middle School in Hollywood Hills, taking them to Aircon Middle School. But that was my route, and that's how I learned a lot of back roads, and that's why I know the streets so good too. Hint, hint, Andrew. Okay.
I got you. I hear you. Is that you're saying that's why you're so fast all those calls, huh?
Well, so it's rare now that people that are raised in a community spend their career working at that fire department. Before we got on, Rick mentioned he was from Lugoff, Andrew's from Newberry, and I'm sure that y'all got a ton of guys that didn't grow up in Columbia. So being a guy who was born and raised in Columbia, what's that been like to serve your people for 47 years?
Well, let me tell you. Let me back up to my grandfather. My grandfather, he served this community. He was a taxi driver, and he was one of the first. He had the first. It was called 10 Jenny Cab back in the early 30s, late 20s. Called 10 Jenny in the city. It was a single cab, but he drove that. He's got the Fort Jackson pickup service out there. Then he developed it. He started Eagle Cab Company. He was a worker. I mean, he was working. My dad started driving cab as well when he got older, and they was got the Fort Jackson pickup service and bring them back. And then he helped start what is called the Blue Ribbon Cab Company today. So that was kind of like, and I saw how they worked. I mean, they were hard workers, and I saw how they cared for the community. Anybody that needed help, they would help, and that's kind of how I picked up. I saw that I want to be a part or contribute to where I grew up at, and that's not taken away from anybody who decide to relocate, go elsewhere. But that's where I saw my roots at, and that's where I want to make my mark. So that's why I guess that's why I stayed here for so long, just so I can help the community out. And I feel like it's more than just a job; it's a calling. When you can help people, and I feel like firefighting is a calling. We see a lot of stuff, but I still feel like it's a calling.
Well, I will say this, Chief. There's most of the calls I go on, I'm stopped by somebody there at the call that says, "Hey, I know Chief Aubrey Jenkins." And they always you have succeeded in that. You are known by the community, you're accepted by the community. And that's one of the things. You are a staple of Columbia Richland Fire Department. You've done a phenomenal job at that. So looking back, we've kind of gone up through, early childhood, you're finding the fire service. Talk a little bit about, because we're getting in the way back machine and we're going back 47 years to you hitting
Okay.
the floor. And
Okay.
tell me a little bit about your first assignment, first hitting the floor. I don't know what the fire service looked like 47 years ago, so paint that picture for us. What was it like?
Well, let me tell you this. We got some phenomenal training that we put our recruits through. Phenomenal training. We teach them everything they need to know and some more. And when they get on shift, we continue teaching, continue teaching. So when I first came on, I'm a guy who didn't know fire address. I could now I was one of them type guys that all of us did. Pull a gasoline on the side of the road and strike a match to see it burn. So that was my fire experience. But when I first came in the fire department, I didn't know fire address. And I got here, they took me out back at the old headquarters. And by the way, they done turned the old headquarters into a restaurant, into a hotel now.
Yeah, that thing's nice now.
Yeah, I gotta go down there. But it took me out back to the garage area. That's where you should fix fire trucks at. And everything. We did everything. When I say we, I mean they fixed everything in the fire department. Trucks, equipment, everything. But that's where they stored all the gear at too. Took me out back, gave me a helmet, gave me a coat, gave me some boots, gave me some quick catch pants. They even gave me some suspenders to hold them pants up. And they took me back into showed me how to put it on. Took me back into where the trucks was. Engine 1 and engine 2. And ladder 4. Took me in there and said, when you see that truck move, it was pointing at engine 2, I think. They said, when you see that truck move, you be on it. I said, okay. So when the truck, when the alarm went off, I got on that truck. I didn't know Adam House Cat. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything. And I'm talking about day one when I walked in the door. They said, I didn't put my quick cat. I just put my stuff on the truck. I didn't know anything about Dawn and Dolphin, all that good stuff. They won't teach y'all. They won't teach us all that. And they were teaching us all that, how to do all that. They say, when it moved, you be on it. So that's what I did. I'm just riding. I'm riding. But you know the cool thing about it? Man, that was on the back of the truck.
This is tailboard? You're riding tailboard?
Yeah.
All right.
Man, that was cool. I mean, I was holding on. I still didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, that's pretty cool. And we get to a call. Now, downtown during that era, a lot of calls were mostly box alarms. Somebody pull a box or alarm go off and we respond to it. So, and that's what we did. We responded to it. I didn't know what to do. They didn't, and they really didn't tell what to do. It was like on the job training. But that's how my first experience. But let me tell you what changed in that first experience. So I tell you, I graduated from Eau Claire High School. So there was a fire that went on Summit Avenue, right next to Eau Claire High School. And I had been there maybe a week. And so responded out to the call. And I was just getting off. Because we was working day. I had to work day duty for 3 weeks. So I went on out there. And I still had my stuff on, my uniform on, and all that good stuff. And I was there about a week and a half. Went to a fire, house burning all over. One little girl, she was 7 years old, and so had to patch her up. I think her hair caught on fire or something. And it was a empty house, abandoned house, vacant house. So got the fire knocked down. So I'm standing out, and as they began to sift through the rubble, Howard Lee Define, I don't know if y'all remember him or not. Howard Lee Define, he was a captain there. He said, Jenkins, come here. Just like that. I said, what are you calling me for? He said, Jenkins, come here. Okay. I walked over there. He showed me something. And what he showed me, I have never seen in my life. I'm talking about a week and a half on the job. It was an image of a little girl, 5 years old, burnt so bad that she was mixed into that rubble because the house had burned down. And when I saw that, it was so bad that I could stand to see it, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
But had never seen it, never experienced anything like that before. So let me tell you what it did to me. what that did to me, it showed me that this is serious business. And from that point on, I sought to learn everything I could about the fire service, going to class, doing what I can do, going to the National Fire Academy, local fire academy, just learning stuff, going to classes. And I knew that this was serious and I had to take it serious because the only way that I was going to be able to help anybody is I got to learn the trade. So that one incident, no experience. Like I said, I didn't know fire address. I still didn't know fire address. Sometimes I don't know it now, but that's okay. Well, I don't like to know it, put it that way. But that one experience really calibrated me to want to learn as much as I can about the fire service, and that's what I did.
That's
Just from that one
incredible.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard you share that story before, Chief. I've heard you, clearly that's early in your career. You said a
Mhm.
week, roughly a week on the
A
job,
week and a half.
a week and a half on the job. And, the impact of something like that, I think we're at a time where that impact can hit you any number of different ways and it can
Mhm.
shape people in different avenues. For some people, that's the moment they decide they want to get out of the fire service.
Mhm.
And so for you, it was a defining moment that you were going to dig deeper in and you were going to be a student of this craft and a student of the trade. And clearly it paid off because 47 years later, you are still learning. You're still, I mentioned it earlier. I still see Chief on calls. Very rarely does he beat us, but he tries. So I guess that's one of the questions I have for you is, let's talk a little bit about some of those early influences in your career and kind of the way they impacted you.
So there was a captain, uh, Captain Coles. But you know what? I had some people that really taught me and worked with me and didn't mind kind of, toying with me to make sure that I do the right thing. So there was several people. I mean, I got put on Squad 51, which was almost it's just like our rescue. It ran to every call in the city. I mean, if you get on Squad 51, don't worry about getting no sleep because you're gonna run. But there were captains on it, like Captain Kirby. He uh he used to always inspire me to do the right thing. Um, Now he was a mean, what I would call not mean, but he was tough. There was people like Captain Coles. Captain Coles, when I got sent to station, we called it Shannon then. I know we called it Station 9. I got sent to Shannon, which was on Divine Street. He was a captain on 22. Had two engines out there. 22 was like the pop call truck, ran everything. Engine 8, you set there unless a fire came in. But we would always go, and he would always, he kind of took me under his wings. So much so that he would teach me, he would talk to me about stuff. He taught me how it was, how it is now, and what I need to be looking for to make things better. And he would take the time with me, and we would respond to calls, and we go out there and we take care of business. And he was a firefighter. We got firemen and we got firefighters. This cat was a firefighter. He was a captain. He was a firefighter. And the one thing I do regret working with them older guys back in the day is the fact that they didn't believe in halfway putting on masks. They say if you put a mask on, you can't take it. But I soon learned my lesson. I'd rather live. I'd rather live. So, you know, and people would get in there and they would get in there, put the fire, come on out. Get the fire in, get in and put it, come out. But those folks like that inspired me because they knew their job and they did it well. And they didn't get hurt. Um, I don't know why, but they didn't. We were catching fires like what we call shotgun shacks or fat lighter. And things go up pretty quick. But also it had that not sheetrock, but plaster walls in there, and all you did was take that nozzle, you twirl it around, and then you shut that door, and then the steam put it out. Those folks inspired me because they knew what they were doing. Our folks today know what they're doing, and I'm always inspired when I go out there and watch them put fires out because they know what they're doing. I got all confidence in the world. But you just had so many people that work with me, and I appreciate it. That didn't kick me to the curb. Back in the day, they didn't want you to look at their pump panel. The reason why they didn't, because they think you're trying to take their job. But I was fortunate to work with some people who didn't mind me looking at their pump panel and gave me opportunity to do things. So.
Now, Chief, you mentioned those captains that you worked with. Now, was that just dumb luck ending up with some great captains? Or was that a kind of across the board?
I think I was fortunate to get with certain captains. Now, I think that all of them were pretty good at what they did. I wouldn't say that we just had people that didn't know what they were doing, but sometimes you do question. I couldn't question because I didn't know anything.
Yeah, and so yeah, I didn't mean to insinuate you had captains that didn't know the job.
Right.
But everybody doesn't take the time to grow their personnel.
That's right.
So yeah, they're some guys are great at the job, great at responding to calls, but don't really invest back into the young guys.
Well, I tell you, back then we would have classes about every day. It wasn't a lot of sitting around. You could even cut television on to a certain time. I mean, late in the evening. So all that downtime was spent in the day room studying, and the captain would take time to go over stuff with you. And that's what he did. So all of them had that mentality to work with you, because it wasn't no academy that we sent, they sent me to, or even folks who came after I did for a while. So there was no academy, anything like that. It was solely that those captains took the time, and the captain didn't do it. If the captain was busy, that's why I always say engineers actually run the firehouse, because the engineers make sure everything was taken care of. But there was a regiment. You had to get in there and you clean up in the morning. And when I say clean, I don't mean look at it. I mean clean. And everything was nice, clean, swept down, dusted, all that good stuff. Bathrooms clean and everything. But they also took time to teach you. One pet peeve of all of them was they want to make sure that, now I wasn't a driver there, but I still sit in street class where they would go over streets with you. There was a running list you had to learn, and you had to recite them. From the river to Gervais Street, everything that you were learning was leading out of the city towards the city line. And you had to recite these things. Gets William, Hugo, Pulaski, and all that good stuff. And they would test you on it. I don't mean physically test, but you sitting there amongst your peers, and they would ask you stuff like such and such street. What street does this run off? You had to know it. You had to know your block number. One of the big decisions that any driver has to make when you pull out on a ramp is what? Which way to turn? Do I go to the left or do I go to the right? You have to know all that stuff. And that's what they instilled in us. That's why even today, I still know my running list. I can recite it if I feel like it. And that is just stuff that was instilled in us, that, learn your job. And I love being a firefighter.
Now, I would imagine those early in your career, most of those guys were veterans, right? A lot of them had served Vietnam, and so they're regimented guys.
Yes, You're absolutely correct about that. You had a lot of them, so even earlier wars than Vietnam when I first came here. They had served it.
I didn't want to put you. I didn't want to put you that old, but yeah, some World War II guys to Korea.
So you ain't right. But yeah, I mean, and you even had older guys that were still here, um, in their 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
They were still here, and they were just as sharp as a two-edged sword, and they really were, and they knew their stuff. And you talk about drivers, you guys are drivers. Anytime you ride on the back of the truck and you entrust your life to somebody who's driving you, they gotta be right. They gotta be right.
Yeah, especially if you're hanging off the back.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. You know,
No,
I,
so just so
you
I can
know,
have like get my head around it. When you came on, how many firefighters does the city of Columbia have?
ooh, I would tell you like this. Everything that we had was mostly within the city. Um, and we had four on the back on each truck, and it seemed like we never ever ran without four people on the truck. Um, but
So
then
total
we
would be
had,
about what?
huh?
Total would be
Oh my God, I don't know, maybe 50 on each shift. I would imagine
okay.
it
So
was.
you're
It
looking at
was
about 150, and then you got admin. And so what are
the
y'all at now?
admin was not big at all. Admin was the chief, maybe. Uh, so the assistant chief used to actually work shift work
Okay.
because what it was, they were on what is called Car B. Car B ran all the fires in the city. The outlying station, like Station 14, you had a truck out there, only had one truck out there, Engine 14. Engine 14 ran everything up there toward the Sand Hill and all that area up there. Then I think you might have had one of our volunteer stations coming down. Going up toward Lower Richland, you had Capitol View, which was a volunteer station. You didn't even have Station 8 there until later on. So, because 8 and 22 was at Station 9. So you're talking about 8, you're talking about Hardin Street, which had an engine and a ladder out there. So you're talking about what, 8, 16 personnel. Then you're talking about Eau Claire, which had a ladder and a engine. You're talking about another 8 out there. And then you're talking about 7, which had an engine. So you had 4 personnel out there on the shift. And where else? You didn't have 12. You had 6 out there, which had 4 people out there on the shift. So you can see it wasn't a whole lot of people. It wasn't a whole lot of people.
Yeah,
So
y'all got a few more. Y'all got a few more people now.
we got a few more people. Just a few more. We still ain't got enough. We got a few more.
I hear you.
So and we caught a lot of fires.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. What did fire duty look like in those early years for you?
What did what?
The fires, how many fires were you guys catching in those
We
early years?
so 9 was one of the busiest stations. As far as catching automobile fires, little brush fires, and even some structure fires. Um, and it's almost like I'm trying to say, we caught some pretty good fires. Um, I can remember when Drake Chemical Plant came in. I was on Engine 9, coming out of Station 9, and it's so funny, a lot of stuff that we know today, a lot of stuff we know how to avoid people losing their lives in the fire service. Old acronym, don't if you don't know, don't go because it might blow. Hazmat stuff. We go to a hazmat call, and this what taught me that I need to put my boots on. We went to a hazmat call, and it was we had stuff actually count. I say blowing up, but you know how canisters pop, and that's what they were doing, and they would go airborne. And we out there putting water on that stuff, walking around in all that water with those chemicals, and of course it started burning our legs. And believe it or not, the only way we can get our legs start burning was take some Coca-Cola and pour it on it, and that's what we did. But that taught me that I need to wear my boots at all times, and I started doing that. Of course, you know we had the hip boots, and I stopped. I wouldn't even put those on. I put my quick catches on. But the fires, we caught a lot of fires, um, and we were able to put them out. We wasn't. I would put it this way: we wasn't as fluid in ventilation as we are now.
Mhm.
You very seldom have anybody get up there and cut a hole in the roof, um, because it's more or less bum rush, put it out, bum rush,
Mhm.
put it out. And so I remember that happened one time on Stark Street. Bum rush put it out, but had opposing lines, and the house blew. Sent 7 firefighters to the hospital. A couple of them with some bad burns. We learned our lesson. Like I said, we learned our lesson.
Mhm.
And the only thing that saved me was the fact that I had to catch the hydrant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This so I gotta say, as you what you're not able to see that we can see on our end is that your good friend Rick Dunn and Chief Jamie Helms have a lot of memories coming up here. So apparently in 18 or 1988, you had 120 fire employees in 88. And then
Wow.
your good friend Rick Dunn said that 14 was the best house. So tell me a little bit about company pride at the time. Were the companies competitive? Was it one big family? What did you guys have?
I would tell like this. I don't think that it was as competitive. And what I mean, sometimes I think about competitive, I think about opposition in a good way. It wasn't quite like that because it's almost like when something happened, everybody just did their thing. They did their thing, and that's what happened during that time. So it wasn't like we were competing with one another as much as we were working with one another to get the job done. We were all in this thing together. Now there could have been some, you be like, well, now I tell you where the competitiveness came. Wasn't so much on the fire ground, but it was on the basketball court.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where the competitor came in, or on the ping pong table. That's where competitor came in. But when it came down to fighting fire, and everybody just gelled together, and everybody just worked together.
Chief, were you running um assignments where the first in engine did a specific assignment? What was it, a race to the front door? What did it look like when everyone got there?
Well, we didn't really like just like how companies do now. Sometimes they'll lay a line going in, or drop holes going in. We didn't really do that. Always left that up to the second dude person, dude engine to drop that line. The first dude would always go and start firefighting off that tank until that second dude. And I tell you another thing too. We didn't run the ladders like we do now. They didn't do the exact same thing because what they did was actually they did more of salvage and overhaul. They go in and throw tops over furniture, stuff like that. Put stuff in the middle of the floor, make sure it don't get wet. And another thing that we did as well too, we actually, if we come to your house and you had a fire, we almost leave it as clean as it was before we got there because we go in there and mop water up, squeeze it out, never left stuff down. That I tell you what, that was one of the most I ain't gonna say aggravating, but When you go in there, you get all the debris, had to get all that debris out of there. We would not leave it inside the house. Now, obviously, if it just burnt down, I mean, that's a different story. But a room and content would not leave none of that burnt debris. Even matches, when matches on fire, we had a mattress carrier. Put that mattress in that mattress carrier, and we'll run it through the house and get it out. So it's just a lot of different things that were done then that we don't do now. Um, I guess I don't know.
Yes, sir. Now you brought something up that's I think it's worth going back to. So
Okay.
you talked about choosing to put your face piece on, choosing to use the air inside of that cylinder, and there was
Yeah.
a cultural shift in the fire service. And I think, like Chief Vinay hits on this all the time. We don't change; we constantly evolve, and
Hmm.
that's what we do in the fire service. But there's definitely a lot of pushback when we're in the middle of that evolution. And I've heard some of the guys, I'm not going to call them old guys because I'm going to be respectful on here.
Right.
But I've heard the old timers talk about when those masks came on the truck, they weren't to be touched, they weren't to be used. And you talked about some of your mentors that you were learning from, but you still chose to use that mask. What motivated that? Why did you choose to do that?
Well, because the reason why I chose to do that because the couple of times when I didn't do it, I know how it felt when I was inside that trying to hold your breath, trying to breathe easy, and all that smoke, but you can't do that. And I had enough sense to know I didn't want to die in a smoke filled environment. You know, um, fires were. I think fires are probably more hotter. I know it's not the right term now than it was then because when we went inside, the most famous ventilation was to open the windows and take the hose and pull it out that way with the hose using a fog string. It's not that way anymore. And even back then, you know, smoke was killing us. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna put my mask on. Now, did somebody say, man, what you doing with that mask on? Absolutely. Then I told them, I say, I'm living. I'm living. Flash hoods, you was lucky if you had a flash hood. You were lucky. Even gloves. We got to the point where we started putting. You notice I didn't say they gave me gloves when I went in that background. These are things that you just had to evolve and get, live and learn. And I'm just wondering why we didn't have as many firefighter fatalities then, especially before me, when you were just you couldn't take it. You couldn't take it. But fire service has really evolved.
Well, what are some of the biggest, because over the course of 47 years, I know you've seen a lot of changes
Hmm.
come through the fire service. What are some of the big evolutional changes that you've witnessed that have reshaped and changed the way the fire service is?
Well, I think for one thing, I think the training is so unique that it has really changed, and it's got people in the mindset of wanting to train. Back in the day, we trained every now and again. We trained, but it's not as much as we're training right now. We didn't think about the ISO stuff then. I don't think it was around then. ISO. It might have been, but I wasn't a part of it. We didn't think about that. We didn't think about the fact that when we go in, but first of all, there were no thermal imaging cameras. So we did train on how to do a search pattern, and how to find your way back out. Not only by doing the search pattern coming back out, but also utilizing the hose as a way out as well. the thermal image camera made a big difference in the fire service, in my opinion, because it actually gives you some eyes that you would not have ordinarily. And that was one of the biggest things. But we didn't have everybody didn't have a thermal imaging camera. The radios, the only person that had a radio was the captain. Firefighters didn't have a radio. We couldn't communicate. But you had to stay with your captain. You could not be independent of your captain. You had to stay with your captain. Could not be independent. So those are some of the changes that I see. And I tell you what, I may be jumping ahead, but even with this AI stuff now, that's going to really change the fire service. It's really going to change the fire service. All the experiment they're doing with the different things. But believe it or not, years ago, I thought to myself, before this AI stuff come out, these robot stuff, I said, one day, man, we're not going to be going to fight fires anymore. Man, going to invent robots going to fight that fire. And it's almost like what they're trying to do right now. But the one disadvantage of AI, in my opinion, is it's going to have people not thinking anymore, but relying. And you get to that point, the technology will fail. But we still got to have thinkers. We got to have thinkers.
So just something I picked up, I think through your conversation of, not the competition with different firehouses and y'all are all doing one job, and nobody doing it for a pat on the back. It's just what you were supposed to do, right? When you came in, being that firefighter, going in there, being humble was who you were supposed to be.
That's right.
And now I see a lot more focus on more on us than them. When I say them, I'm talking citizens. So in your career, have you noticed that shift as well? When it was just like, okay, I do this job for no thanks. I do it for the love of the game. And now it seems to be going the other way a little bit, in my opinion.
Well, one thing I tell people, if you don't if you don't have a passion for people, this is the wrong business to be in. Because you got to have a love and a passion for people. You got to want to help people. If we solely relied on the money, nobody be in the fire service. That's just a fact. But we do it because we are a special breed of people. And there's nobody special, more special, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, in a profession than a firefighter. I know I love cops, I love everybody else. But a firefighter, one thing about a firefighter, it didn't matter what the calling was, what kind of call we went to, we always rose to the occasion. I remember we used to get cats out of trees. And believe it or not, we had to get a bird out of a tree. Sure did. I ain't gonna tell you how we got them out, because
no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
But I think there is this expectation from people that anytime a firefighter is called, that there's some actions gonna be taken. Now we get criticized. I get calls from people about this truck driving too fast. Stuff like
Andrew.
that, or somebody ain't talking to me right. 99% of the calls that I get, nobody even know, because I squash it right there. Especially talking about truck driving too fast. I say, you ever rode in a fire truck? No. I said, I tell you, them things so loud. I say, then when they come out the street, when they're breaking down, they sound they just rolling. I say, not they really not. I know someone's drive fast.
So one thing I do want to touch on before we move on, you mentioned AI, and I just want to reassure Chief that you don't have to worry about AI, because AI is great for a lot of things, but AI doesn't dream. AI doesn't tell me what's next. AI is never going to be able to have the kind of passion and kind of intellect to take something a direction. So that's always going to be us. We're always going to be the dreamers.
but right now they are experiencing with AI to have AI not dreaming but thinking ahead, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing, thinking
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the reality with AI is it's a valuable tool.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about tools, line it up with the in the toolbox with every other tool we have. And the
That's right.
moment it's not a tool, it's a crutch,
That's
you
right.
know? So it something I think there's a tremendous opportunity there, but then you always have to ask yourself, what are you taking away? You know, from the 1950s to now. I don't remember the 1950s. Maybe somebody in this conversation does, but 1950s to now, the time of cooking a meal and spending time eating at the dinner table is different than it is now. We sacrifice for convenience. And
That's
that's
right.
part of this natural process of humanity. But it's important that we remember what we're sacrificing for that. If we're getting something out of an output machine, we're going to get output.
That's
Um, but talking about change, you were part of a very, very big change long before it was popular. And so we've talked about the city. We've talked about Columbia City,
mm-hmm.
but there was a time where you know, looking at mutual aid or auto aid, or at that
Mm-hmm.
time it was just you were going to go help other departments.
Mm-hmm.
You were part of a big merging of bringing a countywide system together. Talk a little bit about how you guys even came to that point, because after you guys had already done this, curriculums start rolling on how to do that. And you guys had you were ahead of the game on that. Talk about kind of the merging and how that came to be.
So I think City of Columbia, Richland County got a very unique um, thing going here, and I can even remember talking with um, a chief who used to be across the river, wanting to know how we do it, because that's what he wanted to do in Lexington County, bring every fire department over there together. So, I can remember when I was at um, Station 9, and we would have to go down near to Eastover or Gaston. I used to get off in the morning, um, and I would see my uncle, and my uncle would always ask me the same question. He said, "How many chimneys y'all saved today?" The reason why he asked that question because by the time we got down there, by the time they called us to help, there was nothing left, and the only thing we would do is push the chimney down so it won't fall on anybody. But once Richland County, so what they tried to do, what they wanted to do was really just merge everybody together under the county. So Forest Acre agreed, Eastover, Gaston, also Byford, all of them agreed. City of Columbia didn't because we had to establish fire department. We had a professional fire department. So we developed those uh, agreements that we would help one another. Of course, to be transparent, the city was always one that was going to help. Because the county, they had volunteers, and and it's unfortunate, but although you had a lot of volunteers, a lot of them didn't show up, or the response was not enough, or they didn't have enough at the station. I remember when we took over Valentine, and we didn't have a station up there, put Station 16 up there. They were actually living out of a trailer until that station got built. And when we took over Valentine, we put a paid drive up there. Some of the volunteers didn't like that, and it kind of created a rift. But you just gotta be like, you gotta stick to it. You gotta think about the citizens. It only helped the citizens. So that was a time where it wasn't pretty because nobody wanted to give up what they had. and everybody think that the city was trying to impute on their territory. That was not the case. It's just that the powers to be, which I wasn't in that meeting, came together and said, this is what we need to do to have a good quality response package that both sides can agree with and work with, and it works out well. So it was a struggle. I tell you, it was especially up in Valentine. It was definitely a struggle, and even down in East Dover, it was a struggle. Gaston, it was a struggle. Nobody wanted to give up their territory. Um, Captain View, it was a struggle, but eventually, things evolved, and we're still not there yet. We still got a long way to go. A long way to go, but we'll get there.
Well, I mean, that's you said it well. You said, we have to focus on the citizens, what's best
Mhm.
for the citizens. And I remember years ago thinking that any child with a crayon could draw the straightest point between, if a fire's here, what's the closest rig to them? And when egos get involved, sometimes we rob the citizens, the very people we signed up to protect. And something I personally am very impressed with what, the forefathers before you and you
Mhm.
guys have worked with, because anyone that's been in this job for a while, it's not easy. It's
It's
not an
not
easy
easy.
task. There's a lot of negotiation, there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of relationship that has to be developed. So um so I have a question for you. What is, if you could look at your career
Mhm.
and say the most important lesson that you've learned in your career, what would you say that would be?
I guess one of the most important lessons that I've learned is to realize, and I try to tell my staff this all the time, that some of the best ideas come from downrange because they the one using these things, these equipment and stuff like that, and they know firsthand. So I ain't been in a burning structure in a while. Now, can I go in and put one out? I think I can. I think I still got it. Um, but um, and also really learn how to work with one another. See, when we work against one another, we don't get anything accomplished. So I would tell you, being a fire chief is not easy. I mean, I just tell you the truth. It's not easy, but it's not hard either. If you just don't take things personal, I learned that you can't take things personal. Things gonna happen. People gonna do things. People gonna say things. But until people know you, why you worry about it? And I got a saying that I always say. I try not to worry about anything that I got that I don't have control over. Because if I got control over it, it really is not an issue. And if I don't have no control, what am I gonna do? You know. So, but I'll be honest, I learn a lesson in everything that I go through, everything that I deal with. I try to get something that can take away from it and just encourage people.
So a question I would have for you in 47 years, who was the best chief you worked for?
Aubrey Jenkins. Well, I would tell you, I'm gonna say I've never. Well, I don't know if y'all remember Chief Evans, but Chief Evans was something. That just was something. He told me one time he had this distinct voice. He hear his voice on the speakers downstairs. He was distinct. Wow, I didn't think you gonna make it one time, son. But he loved me. But I tell you who really helped me out a whole lot. Believe it or not, Chief Anderson, Chief Bradley Anderson, because Chief Anderson when he made me his deputy chief, he didn't think it was robbery to have me involved in stuff. everything he was involved in, he made sure I was at the table. And Chief Allen is a smart guy when it comes down to administrative stuff. Very smart, and I look up to him. Matter of fact, I had lunch with him yesterday. I played a game of ping pong with him yesterday too. He beat me 4 times, but you know what?
Did he?
Yeah, he beat me 4 times. But I always looked up to him, and even today when I see him, I don't call him Bradley. I always call him Chief. He said, "No, it's Bradley." I say, "You're gonna always be my chief."
That's right.
And Jansen and I had a good relationship too, but it wasn't like um, the relationship I had with Chief Anderson.
Well, the more confident they are, the more they are willing to share, you know.
Yes,
Um, and that's how it works. When you lack confidence, you keep everything guarded.
yes, and he didn't mind sharing with me. He now I had some people like Curtis Moffitt. I don't know if y'all know him or not, and Rusty Smith. They were assistant chiefs, and they involved me on stuff. I told them, I told both of them, I said, "Y'all the reason why I became the chief because y'all share stuff with me. Y'all share stuff with me." So I had some good people um, kind of in my life as I was coming up.
Well, that's what it takes.
Yeah,
Nobody does
that's
this by themselves.
nobody. This is not. You can't be a loner in this job.
Not and be successful.
No, no.
So my follow-up question to your best chief would be, in your 47 years, what was your best assignment and best crew? What was the one that you had the most fun with, had, learned the most, did the most, and when you look back, say, man, that was as good as it gets.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. I had a crew at station. It was old headquarters, and we rode engine two because engine two was at headquarters before they moved it down the street. And I remember the driver, which I don't know if y'all remember Kevin Bliss or not. Y'all probably don't know him.
No,
And
that's
and I
before
had
my time.
I was a captain, and I had Lisa Bogan, and for the life of me, I can't remember who the firefighter was. The other firefighter was. He was the driver. Kevin, Lisa, she actually left and went into nursing. But we had such a good time on the truck. I mean, we just gelled together. We were riding down the road singing. Um, we get to a fire, and I tell you what, I can put her up in any hole, and she'll get in and she'll fight that fire. She was good. She was real good. And we just had such. So I got to say, it was engine two coming out of headquarters was probably some of the best times on the truck that I had. Because I went to Eau Claire as well before I came back to engine two, and I had some good times out there. But I can remember that vividly. That that crew was we just gelled together so well.
Well, and you made my point for me because I always say, when you have a great crew, you better appreciate it because it doesn't last.
It don't.
They take people from you or people promote
Mhm.
out or whatever. And you were a perfect example. 47 years, you were able to pinpoint a crew
Mhm.
of a great crew that you had and how much you remember it. So these
Yeah.
people that don't know that you're in the good old days better appreciate it. So when you have a great crew, enjoy it, get what you can out of it. And hopefully you get more than two or three in your career. But um, you know, a great crew is hard to come by.
Mhm.
So we've talked a little bit about kind of some of your influences already, but let's talk about you and the impact that you've made. And the big question that I have for you is, one is, what is, if you could be known for one thing, when you walk away from this career, if you could be known for one thing, what would that be?
I think if I could be known for one thing, and I think this is important, is treating people fair. Um, you know, I sometimes I have the unfortunate um task of sitting at my table and terminating somebody. That tears me up. It literally tears me apart to do that. But while I'm sitting there with that person, I never make them feel like they're just this bad person who done this or that and other. Even though they know what they did, don't make them feel that way. Um, just treating people fair and giving people a fair shot, and I think that's important. People gonna make mistakes, but not every mistake causes you to have to. No, I mean, people make mistakes that you don't have a choice, you know. But I just one thing I always try to do is treat people fair and with respect. I think that's important. I don't care what you do in life. It ain't gotta be in the fire service. Just treat people fair.
Well, I'll give you credit, Chief. You are known for that already. People know the heart that you have for the guys. They know the passion that you have for each individual that works for you and works for the fire department. You've done a phenomenal job doing that, and that is one of the things that you are known for. So you have excelled at that, and it's an honor to be able to see the impact that you have personally on each life that you make contact with. But that goes both ways. It's not just the firefighters that work for you; it's the citizens that you protect, and it's evident and it's obvious in what you do.
You know, this is a good. There was a low spot in my life in this department, very low, and I gotta share this with you. When first of all, I hate even talk about this because every time I talk about it, it just brings back bad memories. When when I first came chief, I was interim chief when Zobel died. He was working at our logistics. He came to me and he said, I really want to be a firefighter. So I said, okay, gave him a shot. And when he died on that highway, that really took a lot out of me. The other thing that took a lot out of me is when we lost the firefighter from Irma. I felt like I lost a firefighter. I really did. But what really hurt me about that situation, when I had some of my members stand with that guy and how that guy put in the news in that news release um, things that were not true. Um, but that really took a lot out of me, and I still think about that even today. I was actually looking at an article on the new on one of the posting online because that stuff don't never die. And I saw that press conference that day what that guy did. But you know what? I didn't blame none of my guys. I didn't blame none of them. I didn't. I sucked it up. And even today, I have not sat down and done an interview with no news media who was asking me to do it. It's still on my mind. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I'll be perfectly honest. But that really was a low spot in my career.
Yes, sir.
To think that I would, man, I tell you what. But anyway.
Yeah, okay. That's I think you've experienced loss, and Chance Zobel is one that his name's still on a lot of our rigs. The date that he was killed on the highway, for our recruit schools now, we teach that numbers matter.
Yeah.
Numbers
Yeah.
matter. A normal date means something different. You know, May 26th means something different. And so, you know, it's stuff that it shapes you. And just like that first call that you talked about, you know, a week and a half into your career, there's things that shape who we are.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way we respond to those things is who defines us as a person. And so I guess this kind of leads right up into this next thing. So you have a lot of firemen that work under you.
I'm sorry.
I say firemen, but you know, firefighters that work under you. What advice, if you could give advice just to any firefighter that's out there to sustain them through their career and guide them, what one piece of advice would you have for them?
Well, I would tell you the advice I would give to the firefighters, for anybody. There's a lot of things that you're going to deal with, a lot of stuff you're going to experience. A lot of times you don't want to point a finger. The only thing I would say, take a look at yourself first. What can I do? I, not we. What can I do to make this situation better? What can I do to make a change? What can I do to make a difference? Answer that question first. And the reason why I say that is because you don't know what a person is dealing with. You may be stronger than that person, but look at what you can do. You know, we talk about motivation. You know, motivation is a self-inflicted thing. I can't motivate you. You gotta want to be motivated. You gotta want to do what's right. These are things that you gotta want to do. And I've learned over the years not to put so much expectation on people, but I need to put expectation on myself. You know, and I always use this as an example. If you got a problem with somebody, don't get mad at me because I don't have a problem with that person. That's between you and that person. Y'all need to get it right. Be who you are. Be who you are. If you that person, do everything you can to make a change. This is a good career. You're gonna meet a lot of good people. And the one thing about it, and I know firemen, we're like we're one way in the station. We could be having a knockdown, drag out argument. As soon as that tone go off, it's like something snap in our head. Man, we are one. We are one. Just imagine if we can always keep that same mentality, the same thinking. That you know what, that's not my enemy. Sometimes people want me to do stuff that I have no control over. I have no power to do. You know why? Because everybody got bosses. But you do what you can do. That's why I tell people take a good look in the mirror sometimes and ask yourself, what can I do? And sometimes you know what needs to happen? You can't change people. You can only change yourself. What I mean by that, how you perceive things, how you take things in, how you let things affect you. That's what you got to do.
That is solid advice, Chief. You were preaching for a little bit, so that was phenomenal. Excellent advice for anybody, I think, whether you're in the fire service or not. Um, so a couple corrections I think that we had from someone said that, let's see where it is here. 18 or 19. I keep saying 18 like these guys are from the 1800s. I apologize. It is 1900s, just to be clear. 47 years wasn't that long ago. So 1988, apparently from Chief Helm Station 11 had the 45th busiest engine and the 5th busiest ladder in the nation. I think some shots are being thrown back and forth between Rick Dunn and Jamie Helms there. So I do have one other.
See,
Go ahead.
they know those stats. So
Oh yeah, they got him. They got him.
Hell, nobody else knows him, so he could be making it up.
It's true. It's true. Maybe all a lie. So, all right. So they're telling us that we've got to wrap up, but I got a question for you, Chief.
Okay.
You have persevered in this career a long time. 47 years is a tremendous amount of time. What is it that has kept your heart and your perseverance in this career when the fact is you could have hung this thing up at almost a full career ago? You know, you could have almost hung this thing up what a lot of people are going to spend their time in the career. You've basically doubled that. So what is it that has kept your passion for the job? What is it that's kept you motivated and your perseverance for it?
You know, somebody asked me the other day, say, how did you survive the fire service for 47 years? I said, well, first of all, through prayer, you know. But I'm gonna tell you something. We got some good people in this fire department. We really do. We protect what I consider to be some great citizens out there. What keeps me going is that every time I get to the point, I say, you know what? Why am I still here? I get somebody walk in my office, or I get a call on their phone from a citizen who is in distress. And see, it's not all about the fires. It's other stuff. It's conditions that they are in. You see me on the news talking about how people are being treated by their landlords in these places, mold, mildew, and stuff like that. That keeps me going. Now, how much longer I'm going to do it? Everybody keep asking me that. I'm gonna tell you how much longer I'm gonna do it. But I'll let you know. I'll let you know in the future, okay? Don't. But anyway, that people really keeps me going because there's so much to do. There's so much. There are things even in this department that I would really like to see accomplished, and I'm working hard to try to get those things accomplished. Sometimes it looks like you're not moving. I guarantee you, we're moving. Sometimes just because the needle don't jump, don't mean it ain't moving. And so that I don't know, that I guess people kind of keep me going. I do have to tell you this. So there's a picture that I keep on my wall in my office. There's a picture of Scribbins Alley that was right there at Huber and Gervais Street. And the reason why I keep that picture on my in my office as a reminder of what could have happened. They called a code red. I didn't know it. I was the only one in there. I was still on top of that fire. And all of a sudden, streams start coming down, water start coming down, ceiling start coming down. I'm talking about in that two-story building, coming down on top of me. And I had to crawl my way out of there, over debris, over ceilings, and everything to get out of there. And nobody didn't even know I was in there. So I keep that picture on my wall as a reminder of what could have been. But I know it's just the grace and mercy of the good Lord that got me out of there. Because nobody else could have got me out there. I couldn't get myself out there. So I keep that as a reminder. And what that tells me is that each firefighter life is valuable. And we got to do everything that we can to protect and keep them. Because they need to go home to somebody, because somebody is expecting them to come home.
That's good.
So, Chief, I appreciate you being on. We have made our mark. Rick's only texted twice, so we're doing all right. But one of the things I admired is your loyalty to your city and your citizens. I don't think anybody will ever be able to argue that. You've committed everything you've had your entire life to the city of Columbia, and I appreciate you for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all interviewing me, talking with me.
Yeah, I told you it wouldn't be bad.
I don't know, y'all pretty tough.
Well, we did pretty good for having to cover 47 years in 1 hour. So
That's right. That's right. So I thank all y'all for tuning in. Look out for the next Jive. And somebody may have to help me on this, but I think it's March 5th is Legislative Day. Andrew, is that correct?
I am the wrong guy to ask.
Rick, make sure I'm right. Shoot me a text.
March
4th is, just like I said, March 4th is Legislative Day. If you show up on the 5th, you're not going to get lunch.